You could wander up and down the streets of this town to find a place for a little libation, but if you'll come with me, I'll let you see the greatest little tavern in the nation. It's like the proverbial old house at the side of the road where the race of men go by. Tom's Tavern, it's called, a place ribald, but as homey as your mom's apple pie. Let's go in the front door. Now mind the slant of the floor makes it hard to walk without reeling. But the floor is on a par with the slope of the bar, and that's why those bar stools are leaning. Now stand perfectly still and imagine, if you will, how this old castle used to be. I wish it were again the way it was then. But now there's no one here, just you and me. What's that? Listen. Listen. Why, this place is rife with the stirring to life of memories from bygone years. Can't you see there are throughout this bar hundreds of people ordering beers? What brings them here, this group without peer? What is it that they all seek? I hope you don't think they're here just for the drink. They're here to see the Greek. That's him. That's Tom over there with the rumpled white hair and the lines of the years in his face. See those gnarled old hands? They're strong, like iron bands. And they've always kept the peace in this place.
She would just not. She doesn't. Trouble in River City. All gone.
I'm smart. Yeah, you know, one of my parents.
I'm Victor Pitko, and I'm an artist, and my studio is in the Pioneer Building in Detroit. I was introduced to Tom's Tavern in 2004 by a mutual friend of the owner, and like most people, seeing Tom's for the first time, I was a little apprehensive about going in, but once I went in the door, it was sort of mind-blowing to see this ancient structure that was still standing. This was like no place I'd seen before. And after a while, I just sort of sat back in the corner and watched what was going on and was amazed by the interaction between the patrons and the owner. There wasn't the usual bartender-patron relationship where, you know, somebody gets a drink and they lay the money on the table. And that sort of told me something's different about this place. And the more I looked at it and saw the people and heard their discussion, I realized that this was a unique place. And sometime after I left, I got the feeling that, you know, I really would like to go back and sketch. So I called the owner and asked him if I could come back and sit down in the corner and just be unobtrusive and just sort of sketch some things about, you know, the building and about some of the people. One night we went in, my wife and I and Ron's friends Carol and Steve Breshko went into the bar, and there was a real bunch of people in there. They had just come from a funeral, and they were holding a sort of a wake at Tom's. And this was because of their experience with the place and their long history with the place, and they felt that the woman who passed away would really enjoy them gathering in her honor there. So this painting in particular was about that unusualness of a bar gathering where people had gathered not only to console someone, but also to remember someone and the great times that the establishment gave them while they were living.
You want me to entertain you?
Sure.
Let me say something really funny about the place.
Yeah, absolutely.
I put myself on the line, didn't I? And I really don't know what to say. But there's a lot of stories about Tom's, and you'll hear a lot of them later on.
My dad was a very conservative school teacher. He was a religious man. He opened church every morning for 7 o'clock Mass. And one day I stopped, he was retired, and I stopped and asked him if he wanted to go for a ride. So we went I was going to Port Huron or something. It was in the summertime. On the way back, I said, I'd like to get a beer, Dad. He didn't drink. I want to stop and get a Coke. He says, I'd like to see that Tom's Tavern that you and Bobby talk about. So we came in here, and Tom was behind the bar. And I introduced him, Dad, this is Tom. Tom's my dad, Leo. And Tom's looking at him. His eyesight was getting bad, and he looked at my dad. He says, yeah, mister, you look pretty good. How old are you, mister? My dad says, I'm 88. Tom says, I'm 92, mister. When I was 88, I was screwing 3 times a day. How you doing, mister? I about fell off the bar stool.
Kind people to come in and give me this big deal. I hope I'll live another year so I have the same pie again.
Tom attracted a really diverse and interesting crowd. One thing I think he prided himself on was he made it perfectly safe for any woman to come here alone.
I came in one night, and my 2 daughters and 2 of my 3 sons were in here. Somebody's birthday party, I think. So Carrie was sitting at the bar here at the end of the bar, and she was talking to Tom. And I walked up behind her, and I put my hand on her shoulder. And Tom leaned over and took my hand off her shoulder. He says,
Don't touch the babies.
don't touch the babies.
Good for Tom.
I said, Tom, it's my daughter. Don't touch the babies. And he kicked me out. He literally, that's the only time he ever threw me out. So I went out the front door and came in the back door, and he'd forgotten by then that he'd kicked me out. But my own daughter, I couldn't talk to my own daughter. That guy works at the track, and his wife's baking rack just teems with items delicious.
I've been called, it's John Jack Murray, as my father used to say, get up, John, and let Jack sit down. But it's been Jack ever since I've been a little boy, all through my life. And this here is my wife, Shirley Murray.
Told me that when his dad was a merchant in Greece and had a nice store and had really saved a lot of money, and there was a lot of kids in the family, and he was the oldest. And his dad thought that, he'd pass the business on to Tom. Well, World War I happened, and the country was taken, Greece was taken over, and all the money was taken, and so they gave them back 10 cents on the dollar. So the father was broke at that point and had a lot of children to raise and so forth. So when Tom was, whatever his age was, 18 or thereabouts, 17, 18, his dad literally paid for his fare to come over and put a few hundred, and he said a few hundred, so he didn't say like 1,000, he just said a few $100s in his pocket and said, I'm sorry, son, that's all I've got to give you, and you're going to have to strike out on your own. The way I was told anyway, it's not just the tavern. There was a house to the back of that, and what wasn't any more than 2 years after he owned it that Prohibition came in. So he had it like a restaurant, but he was selling a lot of hooch out the back door.
And today is, what is it? St. Patrick's Day. My father, who has passed on, brought me in here with him so many years ago I can't remember, but and we stopped in several times, once or twice a week, because we lived in the area, and as a result of that we knew who Tom was and started a relationship.
There you go. Are you rolling now? I'm rolling now.
Tavern, the best around.
As time went on, my father passed, and he became almost my second father in that we did a lot of things together.
14 years ago, in '94, Pete was the limo driver on St. Patrick's Day.
That's me.
That's you? For my friends and I, about 15 or 20 people in a limo. And we were bar hopping, and Tom's was one of our stops. And this was the place where we started to talk, and
I usually never talk to the clients, but
right?
or mingle with them.
Mingle with them, right? You do your job, and we do our parting job in the back. But started talking and hit it off, started dating, and we got married 2 years later. And we come back here every year on St. Patrick's Day to celebrate our anniversary. We actually got married, on March 16th, 1996. Met in 94, got married in 96. And we have 3 kids, 3 stepchildren from Pete's previous relationship.
6 total.
6 total. And we come back every year. So this is our
15 St.
Patrick's Day. Yep, and we come back to Tom's every year. Say hi to the crowd, and we love this place.
My name is Mark Wojcik. I've been at Tom's Tavern aficionado, attendee, bartender, customer for probably 30 years. Started drinking here when in the late 70s, early 80s. And if my mom and my wife would let me, I'd buy in and help Ron run the bar, but they won't have it because they know I'll be dead in a week.
Tom had, because of his ability to be able to speak to people in the manner that he did, with such charisma, people would come in here and just to hear him talk. And he was so unique and so special. And the food that he made was, second to none.
Back in late 70s, I was coaching on the west side, and we wandered in here. And a couple of years later, I ended up coaching at UAD High, which is right down the street. And once the season started, we were here pretty much every night. Had a lot of our meetings and made a lot of our strategies here, and ended up getting to be very close friends with Tom. Got to drive him home at night when we'd close up late and he couldn't drive any longer. I'd take him home, and I was lucky, I guess, one of the few people he ever let behind the bar.
It's been a legendary place for years and years that people from all parts of Detroit, or different areas of Detroit, people from faraway places would always make it a point that if they were back in Detroit and had moved out, and they came back into Detroit for a brief period of time, they would stop by at Tom's, because it was a very unique place to come. The beer was always cold, the drinks were great, and the food was superb. And Tom made that happen. He was the guy.
One of the priests and I who drank here while we were at UAD he was here, I was here, and there wasn't anybody else here, so we heard my confession. It's just simple. It was a good thing. So you can do pretty much anything you want here. This is my kind of place. Sit down and have a beer and have some friends and be yourself. That's what this place is all about.
He opened up at noon. Races started at 1:30. We'd come down and he'd have a gathering in there, maybe 10 or 12 people, and he would just belt out, closed, and people would see us coming, and he knew it was going to be closed. And he would run everybody out, jump in the car, and we'd spend the afternoon till about 3 o'clock, and then we'd come back and open up his place. But a lot of people would get upset because they'd go in and have, sometimes he would never cook one chicken. He always had to cook 2, and some people would have a chicken dinner, and it was embarrassing on us because he'd call me, "You're coming, aren't you? You're coming." And I'd say, "Yeah, I'll be there, I'll be there."
I used to always think, something wrong with this picture. I'm taking a 95-year-old or 92, whatever, to go throw his money away, because it was rare that you ever saw this man win. He just put hundreds through the windows. Now, there's something wrong with this picture.
We would go and pick him up, and if I didn't, my wife would go on her own and pick him up. And we take them not only over to Windsor, not only over to Hazel Park, but to DRC.
He sometimes would give me a lot of money to go bet for his doubles. Run them all down and all this stuff. So I don't know, we got to about the third or fourth race and Tom says to me, and again, Tom never tore his tickets up. He would spit on them and throw them on the ground.
He went to the window and bet $300 on the one. We all went to the window and bet the horse and paid $22. He stood out in front of the $50 window, spitting these tickets and throwing them. You people will die in hell, he says.
I said, Tom, you had the double. You had a very good double. I didn't have no double. I said, yeah, you did. I bought it for you. No, I didn't. I said, well, where's your tickets? They're on the floor. So I get down. He comes up as I'm on the floor on my hands
Under
and
the
knees.
table.
And they're all the spitted tickets that I'm going through. And I find the winning $1,600 ticket. If I remember correctly,
Everybody was looking.
if I remember correctly, your mother is with us that
Yes,
day.
she was, my
Grandma
mother.
was
And my
too.
mother's
They're
bending
the
over.
same age.
They're
They're
same
both
age.
the same age.
I brought the two 9-year-olds, and she's looking, and I said,
And
what
she
in God's name is going on
is
here?
horrified that I'm on the floor climbing all around trying to get these tickets for her.
We started at a bar in Northwest Detroit in 1988. First year, we only had about 10 or 12 people show up. And it's pretty much been a word-of-mouth party, and every year it's just gotten more popular. Now we get about 300 people a year. And we have a lot of people come from out of state. It's kind of a gathering of friends old, friends new. We get together and we have a great time. And Tom's has been great to us. It's a great bar. What I like about it, it was an old speakeasy in the 1920s. And it's the right atmosphere we're looking for. It's easy to imagine Babe walking through the front door, you know, with this long rabbit fur coat and a cigar sticking out of his mouth. It really hasn't changed this bar since the 30s, and we want to create an atmosphere that would be like a speakeasy that he would go to in the 20s, and this was the place. It was a natural. Our party and Tom's Tavern go together really well.
Look at both Tom's birthday this year and the Babe Ruth party just a few days ago. It was wall to wall, and outside the building you couldn't even move in the place. It was so full. So are they still coming? Absolutely. And the thing that was really cute was to see our grandson going down there, which we were all laughing at. Another generation has been introduced to Tom Lucas's.
You could have wandered up and down the streets of this town to find a place for your little libation, but I'm glad that you came with me and had this chance to see the greatest little tavern in the nation. It's been here forever, well, 60 years or so, and it's had nice folks all along. Tom ruled over this place till a few days ago, when he finally answered the Sirens song. Well, that's the end of our tour. No, there's one thing more. Now that Tom has shed life's heavy load, no man will again say in quite the same way, Mister, hit the road!
Please don't talk about me when I'm gone, although our friendship ceases from now on. Now, honey, if you can't say anything real nice, better not talk at all. That's my advice. We are parting. Honey, you go your way, I'll go mine. Best that we do. Here's a little kiss. I hope that this brings loads of luck to you. Makes no difference how I carry on. Remember, sugar, please don't talk about me when I'm gone. That was one of Tom Lucas' ones, and he'd always give a little kiss when he'd sing that song.